And we are back. Huge thanks, as always. Ash, behind the scenes, does incredible work to make sure that these podcasts and pretty much any event on the channel run smoothly. The ones that I end up doing the tech for are significantly worse. Ash, you are the best. I do have to introduce, if you do not know him, which you should, how are you on the Limit Break channel and don't know who Bob is? Bob, how are you doing?
Hello there. I'm good. I'm very tired. I was out at AwesomeCon DC here yesterday. I ran a Power Rangers panel and ran a pro wrestling panel, and so yeah, as a person who has difficulty moving, being out in a crowded area is quite tiring. But I'm here, and I'm super glad to be hanging out with the gang for a while, as it were.
All right, Bob, you have some announcements about the volunteering at the Limit Break event, which we do have the entire schedule in the bottom right corner over there for submissions. Obviously have passed, but we do have quite a bit of other fun things. I think I pointed in the wrong direction because the camera's mirrored, but that's fine.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about how we're going to be approaching a little bit of the volunteering stuff this year. But first, we're going to take a trip in the Wayback Machine to when Limit Break first started being at the University Guest House in Utah. When there were a grand total of 3 volunteer positions: donation station, host, and tech. And 1 technician had to do everything. Which, if you've seen the setup at Limit Break or other live marathons, wasn't a great idea. But at the time, the schedule was set up in such a way that only hosting was tied to a game. Everything else was done in time blocks. This not only reduced the need for the amount of people you needed for like the tech department and the donation station department, but it made it so it was much easier for you to plan your day, because you had a block of like 4 hours that you had to be on shift. We received some feedback after that people were somewhat like, if their 4-hour shift fell in the middle of a 6-hour game, they were just sitting there not doing anything if they were on tech, right? So we changed it up to the way that we've been doing it for the last 2 or 3 years, where every department is based on a game. Long story short, we're going to go back to doing 6 4-hour shifts a day for every department except for interview tech, which was only needed whenever there's an interview, stage tech, which is only needed to set up games, and hosting. Everyone else will be in a block format that will allow us not only more ease in making the schedule, it will allow our volunteers more ease in planning their day or knowing when they will need to be available. Yes, there is the possibility that said volunteers will be sitting there not doing a whole lot because of the whole nature of an RPG marathon with games being long blocks. But after some deliberation with my role coordinators, the negatives outweigh the bonuses. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, one of the problems that tends to happen for these kinds of things is the schedule slips. Last year we had an hour where the internet at the hotel went out, which pushed everything in the schedule back an hour. And with a lot of our help being remote, it's just been so much trouble to message everyone who has to do like these specific, like, you know, doing specific runs, like, hey, sorry, the schedule slipped an hour, so your start time is going to be an hour, and, you know, having to keep up on that.
Yeah, that being
also
said,
the reverse as well. We had a run that saved an hour on the estimate.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, basically, as opposed to now needing to schedule around a 2-hour random block that my shift could start either here, you know, hour earlier or 2 hours later. Like, how do you plan a lunch or dinner around that? It ends up being tricky.
Yeah, stage techs, interview techs, and hosts will still need to watch the schedule, but everyone else will just have a set shift they come in for, and then they leave 4 hours later. It's just. Go ahead, Kuma.
I can assure you, if you're on a text situation for 4 hours and you're not doing anything, that means that everything is presumably going right, at least for your stations.
Yeah. It's just so much easier. It allows us a lot more flexibility, and more importantly, it allows our attendees more flexibility. Next thing I wanted to cover is donation station. Last year we did an experiment with the majority of our donation station volunteers being off-site, and it worked really well. So we're going to lean into that a bit this year. We're going to try and do that again. So if you are interested in donation station, please apply for that. There is one other thing that is tied into the first thing that I really talked about, and that is with hosts being the only department that is tied to a game that has to be there for the entire game. They are also the only department which we are going to ask which games they want to be on schedule for. Everything else is just sort of a you'll either be on schedule, you'll either be on shift, or please feel free to be watching in like the food room, the gaming room, or come sit in the audience. That is well worth. That's just a little thing that is going to make another concession to making it easier to not only make the schedule, but for our attendees plot their own days, basically. We will still be doing applications as we have in the past. You see, I think it's over here to my left. I think they will be opening up next Sunday on the 17th of March, and we'll still be doing it through a Google form. There are a few decisions we still have to make, such as what we will be doing with social media and things like that. We'll still be taking volunteers for that, but we're still deciding on, do we also want to do Blue Sky and Instagram and whatever, Facey Space is the new one or whatever. But I wanted to come on and just sort of make everyone aware of some of the changes that were happening. There is also something that I feel I need to cover, which is if you are applying for a tech role and you are on site, and that is very specifically your audio tech, your stream tech, etc., and you are in the little tech pit, you will be required to wear a mask while you are in the tech pit. Masking is optional in certain areas, which you can refer to the COVID policy, which we've released on social media and on our Discord.
And on our website.
And should be on our website somewhere. I think it's rpglimitbreak.com/COVID. But you can refer to all of those for the optionals. Like, it's optional if you're on stage, if you want to talk, etc., or if you're doing an interview, or the food room, because you got to eat and you can't just force it through a mask like some sort of whatever. But the point being, you will be, if you are applying for an on-site tech department, you are in that little tech area, will be required to mask up. There should be a notification for that on the volunteer form, so you are aware. Anyone have any questions or things you want to talk about at this point? Just want to make sure I'm covering everyone's bases.
We'll give the chat a little bit of time to get those questions in. Just to reiterate, I'm not going to confirm it. We're not sure of this yet, but it's very likely we'll have a games schedule discussion when it comes out. That'll probably be me, GK, and Spike Vegeta. We're still working on the details for that. During this, I'll remind everybody, since that's going to be right around when the volunteer applications, I'll remind everybody of all this stuff again, just so we have kind of multiple places for people to get ears on this.
Appreciate that. And for the record, I live in the States and didn't realize it was daylight savings today. So it's not just you. Not just you, dude.
Why can't we all just do it at the same time if we're going to still do it?
Right.
Try having a long distance relationship where you go on and off, and randomly it's mirrored. So
I did, because my wife was in America for the longest time while I was living in England.
Yes, but I don't think was it mirrored for you, where it's like it'll fluctuate like a full 2 hours for me, where it's like during the winter it's a add 5 and flip it, and then during the summer it's add 3 and flip it.
Yeah. It's weird, man.
Time zones, how do they work?
Yeah.
Interesting time date fact. Did you know that in a leap year, February 29th is not the extra day in February?
Okay, I'm going to need an explanation for this. I feel like it's going to make sense with some details, but
when the calendar switched over, it turned out there were 2 February 24ths. So what they actually did is they just date shifted one of the February 24ths. So the 28th that you know in a leap year, the 29th you know in a leap year is actually the 28th. And the extra day is February 24th.
That still sounds weird.
It is. It's very weird. And that's why calendars are just very weird. But that is how it worked. Can you tell I watch QI a lot?
I can now.
Does it have something to do with the fact that, like, technically, like, it's every year is a fourth of a day longer than 365 days or something like that?
Yeah.
That's what I'm guessing, but
It's something like that, yeah. But yeah, that's a weird leap year fact, since we're in a leap year.
That is. There's a Latin name for it on the Wikipedia article on the subject, and
you're not even going to try and pronounce it.
That is not what I would have expected that to be called.
So, you guys out there in the chat, do you have any questions about volunteering while I'm here to answer them?
And as a full disclosure, Bob and I've also helped out with volunteer applications, so I can also be reached out to. We're pretty much always available on Discord and some other social media platforms as well. So if you don't have any questions now, but you do later, hit us up and do so as quickly as you can, because we'd like to be able to answer them. We'd be happy to answer them as quickly as necessary.
One thing I do want to point out on the thing over here on the left is the discrepancy between the end of booking a hotel and the end of event registration. Event registration ends after volunteer applications close. So do not wait until you've registered to apply to be a volunteer. Do not wait until after event registration closes. Please, if you're intending to volunteer, do so early. And I would say early and often, but you can only really volunteer once. Then you just have to go back and alter your Google form.
So in general, the earlier you get it in, the more information we have, and the better we
can. Yeah, because that gives us more information to then reach out to the community to be like, hey, we need more people to volunteer for donation station if anyone has the inclination, that kind of thing. We are also going to try to continue what we did last year, which is we are only going to be trying to fit, if it is possible to do so, fit remote hosts with remote games. There may be a point where that's not possible. Like last year, like I think we got 10 remote host applications, 8 of whom had availability. His only availability is when there weren't any remote games on the schedule, which is a shame. But we are going to try and make remote hosts with remote games. We may have to do it so that we vice versa. If there's a live host with a remote host with a live game, if we're pushed to it. But we are going to try and keep it to that.
I guess the one last thing I will say is if you haven't considered volunteering and you intend to be in attendance, give it a shot. Like it's genuinely, it's not very hard. It's very rewarding, and the event genuinely needs it because the event does not run without the dozens and dozens of volunteers that end up helping us out. You know, it's very important. It does a lot for the marathon, and it is rewarding. And you learn a lot of new things, and you kind of get like a deeper attachment with what's going on at the marathon, which is always fantastic. So I say this as somebody who's volunteered at literally every RPG limit break ever. So
yeah, it's being the position that I'm in, right, is I don't speed run. Right, I've never speed run anything except how many pints I could down when I was 18. And I don't speed run, I never have, but being involved in these marathons through volunteering and things like that has led me to this position where I'm now I'm very, very much I can't thank the community enough for the support they give me when I'm going through stuff and things. I can't say enough about how rewarding volunteering is when you realize that you're part of the cog that makes the machine run. It's and you get to meet some really cool people.
I'll say I've made some true lifelong friends through volunteering at Limit Break. I'm sure, Bob, I remember we were in a call and you were talking about how Sid even offered to play through Rebirth for you so you could experience the story with them.
Yeah, so I have issues with some of the way that the combat has evolved recently in Final Fantasy games. Like, my hands can't do that. Sid has offered to like literally just get in a call with me and play Rebirth so I can watch it at my own pace and things, and stuff like that. So yeah,
it's a great community. I'll leave it on that. I think with that we are probably about good to wrap up. Bob,
give me 1 second. I want to get the exact date that the volunteer closes.
That's according to the thing. It says the 31st of March.
Yeah, so they'll be open until the 31st, and as you can see, registration is open for like another month after that. So do not. If you volunteer and then you don't end up registering, you can always go remote for certain options, or just let us know that you end up not being able to make it, and we'll deal with it. But please, just feel free to just get in there and have a good time. And I cannot wait to see of our new volunteer friends this year.
all right. I think with that we will probably wrap up right here. Bob, thank you for coming on, and Fruit,
Thank you for having me.
For being just such a great guest. This was such a fun cast.
It was nice to hear another English accent on the cast. It's weird because I get called the English Spike Vegeta so much. I'm like, there are other English people too.
At SGDQ 2022, the runner's badge was Ichiban from LAD, and the amount of people that said, "Is this Spike Vegeta?"
I'm one of them.
Like at a certain point, it just feels this is like me and Bowie as the English people.
Hey, Tim.
That's the Bowie.
Tim is on 20 as well.
That's true. Tim's on now. Speaking of Tim, thanks for the raid, Tim.
Yeah, I'm imagining Bowie is in heaven right now with Rebirth and Unicorn Overload. Lord. Lord.
Lord Load. I don't know.
I keep telling it the wrong name every time.
To be fair, Unicorn Overlord is.
I think Ghoul's trying to close the stream. We should stop.
I'm just trying to give Ash the ability to go.
Look at this. Look at this.
Yep, that's the one.
We stopped to let him go, and he's just not talking.
I'm talking.
No, Ghoul.
Oh, I thought it was closed down.
We should let Ghoul wrap up the stream. Then he's just like, oh.
I thought I wrapped it up. Yeah. Again, thank you all for watching. We will be back in 2 weeks with a as of yet unannounced guest and/or show, and we will see you then.